It's a very exciting time for me to visit India. It's my first visit. And it's because I have been working in the field of CSR and sustainability. We call it purpose in the United States, but because the Companies Act, the CSR mandate, the first country in the world that has a mandated requirement for CSR. But what is so that's exciting. But the structure of the law, I call it a gift to companies in India. And I think people might say, a gift? They'd be very confused. It's a gift because the components have been very well thought out. The fact of having senior leadership in terms of the board committee, setting a policy, writing programmatic form elements, having to work with partners and NGOs, then having to be accountable and to report. All of the structural elements are things that I have been working with companies over decades, and because it's voluntary around the world, companies have really had to learn and make mistakes, waste a lot of money, not solve a lot of social issues, and I think that's where there's a significant, wonderful opportunity in India. The companies that we've met with, many of them are multinationals or very large Indian companies. And so they have been involved in CSR. Maybe some of it's been philanthropy, but some of it is actually very strategic. And so they're looking at how do they perhaps create new initiatives and how, again, do they comply. They're taking the compliance very seriously. I think that, and you're looking at public affairs individuals, you're looking at people involved in communications, involved in employee engagement, even public affairs. So they're coming together to say, how can we become more strategic? Because I believe that's the intent of the law, is that it is not just about, the history in India has been very much about philanthropy. And the United States was about philanthropy. And there were very large individuals who were wealthy who decided it was just the right thing to do to help with social issues. So over most of the years, they were very, I say, quiet. They were quiet about it. But when the internet came along and that there were, all of a sudden, there was transparency. And then as companies were growing around the world, and they were especially leaving their home markets where they may have invested philanthropically, but now they're in new markets and they need to earn a license to operate. They need to give to get. And so that is what's happening. I believe the law will help to accelerate that here. I believe that the CSR mandate, it's a structure, and then it's a certain amount of revenues that get resources that are put against. And the law, as stated, is saying that companies should be more strategic about taking what was siloed and outside of thoughtful engagement with assets, with people, with capacity building, and having it come together. I believe this is an opportunity for companies to more thoughtfully focus their resources against social issues. Really important for companies to take their abilities, their assets, whether it's financial, whether it's people, whether it's innovation, products or services, and place them against social issues in this country that need novel solutions and that need government, companies, NGOs, and civil and consumers and citizens coming together to really act. And it's about changing behavior, it's about activity, it's not just about donating money. So I believe social media is a revolution for companies, and I think that the older generation still doesn't believe it, but I think you're getting younger and younger CEOs, the people around them, the presidents, the marketing folk, the communications folk, that they understand that you can't control the message. And that's why there's this whole part of the Companies Act I don't think that anybody's talked about, which is a good thing. It's about the character of a company. And that I know that IBM did a piece of research in 2012 with 1,400 chief marketing officers around the globe. And they said, what's on your mind? And they said, well, data, of course, and how we crunch the data. But then they said, because of the transparency of social media, that how an organization acts, its character and behavior, is as important as the products and services that it sells. And so again, the transparency, we can find, you know, in India, the penetration of mobile is approaching 80%. And when those phones get even smarter, we're all reporters, we're all sharing, and companies want to be seen in a positive light. And it's not just promotion about a product or service, it's about people's stories. And so when companies are engaged in these social issues that the CSR mandate is requiring, when you work with NGOs and you work with your employees or citizen consumers, you will have an impact and find the stories that will reflect, if you're authentic, the personality of the organization, the humanity of an organization. And that's a very exciting thing. I know it's giving up control, and that's really hard for most companies. They can't just control the message one way. It's two ways now. I think that because social media means that the universe of how you're viewed, you may still be in the business-to-business marketing, but still your communities that you're in, those are citizens. The people that come to work to your company, those are citizens, those are consumers. And so the stakeholders, I know that there's this whole shift from shareholders, from those who hold the public stock, to the stakeholder that companies must now, it's a whole large intertwined universe of interaction that you can't control. That's why corporate character, that's why, again, going back to the CSR mandate, it is a wonderful situation. I know it's hard. And that's the other message I really want to give to companies and their teams. It's not going to be that easy. But giving up the control, finding the core essence of the brand, the purpose of the company, focusing it on a social issue that makes sense and is aligned, and then doing it over time and knowing you're going to make some mistakes. But if you're honest about it, that will benefit the company, its employees, the communities, social issues, and it will up-level the economy and the citizenry of India. And I know that's what your Prime Minister wants, and I know who those, I think, pretty smart people that put that law together, that it was well-shaped. It's not going to be perfect, but it certainly is going to leverage and speed the momentum of public engagement in social issues in India, and that is a very important thing. The first thing is that when you're putting the focus together, when you're deciding on the focus, it should not come from one area in the company. You want to bring a cross-functional senior level team together, even more members than the CSR committee that the law is mandating, because those individuals need to understand that the power of this action. They also will, over time, and I've seen this, they might struggle to be engaged, but over time they'll see the benefits of the engagement. They will see the opportunity for innovation. They will see amazing opportunities for employee engagement. And they will again go back to that whole thing about showing their humanity, but they also will be able to differentiate themselves, and they may be able to sell more products. Because if they're creating products for the bottom of the pyramid per se, those might be sold, or there's an opportunity for revenue development that is going to be something I call a virtuous circle. Okay. That's one thing. The second thing where is a big opportunity to fall down is the partnerships that are developed. Most companies are not experts in water or sanitation or education or such, and they need to find NGOs that can help with getting their services on the ground, experts that know where is the need. It would be such a waste if everyone is doing the same thing that's already been solved. And there are so many different ways. I always say go deep and narrow. Don't go to the whole country. Don't go to 29 states. You'll never be able to do it. We always say in the programs I've helped, whether in the US or abroad, start in a couple countries. Test and learn. Perhaps a developed country and a developing country. And learn and then evolve. And understand it's not that easy, but that the ultimate result can be extraordinary. But you have to look at this for the long term. Another key point is this is not a commitment for just a year or two to the social issue. Your partners might be shorter term. You then might renegotiate a contract, a letter of agreement. But think about doing this for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. Evolve the elements of what you're doing, your partners, but have a long-term view. Only in that way can you really have an impact.